It's still not officially sunrise yet, but we're heading out. And you can see, beautiful morning. Technically, the weather report says it's not supposed to rain until 1. I never believed that because this entire month they've been wrong. The rain's been showing up. Yesterday it was supposed to be no rain, and I was rained on trying to do my yard. So we'll get some clips for you all. I hope you all can see us. We may do a secondary one. I don't know if you can even see our kits, but we'll do another one. All right, you legends. It's still close to, let's see, it's gonna be
6:48 now.
Yeah, it's supposed to be close to 7 is when we get the official sunrise. So I'm trying to get a shot here where you guys can see our kit. Souke. Souke, this is one of the versions of the Souke. We're gonna be sporting a bunch of their kits. Souke is taking their stuff next level. Look in the description. This garment will be there in a link, and you will get a discounted code. But Souke has raised the bar without tearing up your wallet. So you don't need to get a loan to buy their stuff.
That's right.
And it works really well. So
on this ride, Paul and I left Northampton, rode into the woodlands. We picked up Tamar. We headed out on 1488 West. We were chased by a dog out there. You see it on film. Went up Mount Magnolia. The pace was good. 149. All of that's on camera. Jackson Road. 1486 towards Dobbins. We went to Mount Mariah Road. And then the filming ended. We got to Dacus. The guys waited at the store for a bit. They stopped. We kept going. They caught back up. We just kind of spun. We rode through the forest. We filmed a little bit there, but the clips weren't that great. I mean, we had really kind of called a timeout, at that point. But we came back and stopped at Taco. After that, we headed out towards Fish Creek, taking Leah. And the pace was just nice. The wind was blowing. It was always from the south this time of the year. I think that you will really love the clips we got for you. It was a very interesting ride and a really, really beautiful day. We're on the open road, the FM 1488 westbound towards Magnolia, Texas. Keep your eyes on the right by the grass. Look at that dog. He runs out of his yard, irresponsible owner. So I take my bottle and flick water on him to keep him from coming on the pavement. And then he stopped. I didn't want him getting in our path or getting into traffic because it's kind of irresponsible of the owner to not secure the dog. These dogs get hit by cars and they're limping around, because of careless owners. There's a lot of liability when your dog comes out and creates problems like that. Somebody falls, you can get sued. In about 90 minutes, we'll have another one on FM 1486 near Dobbins that runs out again. These dogs get injured because people just don't secure the premises or the pet. So we're approaching Cimarron here. There's a neighborhood on the right there. Got a lot of little lumps. Go in there and do a lot of repeats. I'm avoiding some debris using my hips. And so you see my cadence is up. I'm closing the gap to those guys in a small gear, and then I'm going to shift up. I think I'm on a small ring right now. Helps get me warmed up. We just finished our warm up with them, but it helps wake up my engine. The guy on the right, his name is Steve. He had made a speech when we got to the parking lot saying that he was out of shape, hadn't been riding, whatever. So after all of that, look where he's sitting. He's sitting in the wind by himself, everybody else in shelter. So does that even compute? It's not consistent with his story. So why are you sitting out there if you're out of shape? You should be on the wheels. That will help you last. So because of that expenditure, he didn't last very long. I think by the time we get to Jackson Road, he had to let us go. But you look at him pedaling. It's not sustainable. He's trying to force himself to hold that speed or this effort with a very small ratio. So when you're spinning like a hamster like that, you upset your rhythm. And your breathing just goes haywire. You can go anaerobic. I left enough of a gap so he can get in when he's ready. I'm going ahead and putting on my glasses here. I think he's in the line now. So when you go to rides, resist the urge to make speeches. Unless you're telling somebody who's tight with you what's been going on with you, just go to the ride and clip in and ride. When you get tired, pull off and go. Nobody really cares. Just let the people know if it's a group like this that want to know what's going on with you. Because open rides, nobody cares when you pull off or whatever. There are rides where you just show up and you just ride. If you have a flat, you're on your own. Nobody waits for you. This ride is not one of them. So just go and ride and do what you can and move on. If you are really out of shape, don't go to a fast group ride. Ride by yourself for 3 to 6 weeks or something like that. Get yourself in decent condition. Then go test yourself. You know, you wouldn't go to a bike race out of shape and pay money to get dropped. You know what I mean? So you can't show up at a ride and start announcing how little riding you've been doing. What is that supposed to do? Nobody cares. They're not gonna change the way they're riding because you're out of shape. That's your issue. So all the energy he expended over there, now he's in the line and he won't even last. In about 2 kilometers, he's gonna pull out of the line before he even gets to the front and go and try to go to the back to try and recover. But you know, once you already blown yourself, it's kind of hard to recover. And he just can't handle the pace. He's just got to go do some work. I'm looking at the gears I'm in because for some reason it felt easy, but I knew that I was in a relatively good sized gear, like a 84-inch 5317 or something like that. So I looked down a couple of times just to see where I was in the cluster. I just looked to see if I'm in the middle or too far down or too far up, for reference, for my personal reference for later. But Pedro was pulling, he's pulled off, going to the back. Every time I see a shot like this, where you're looking up, look at my legs, they look like the bronze or like rust colored. I think about Phil Liggett, the famous cycling commentator. He was commentating about a race in Belgium many years ago with Claude Kikilian, Creek the Lion, and those guys, Moreno Argentine. And it was rainy and wet, and that year they had gotten a lot of rain. And their legs looked like mine, and he said, it wasn't a tan because of all the rain. He believed there was rust that was on their legs. And he and his fellow commentator, the late great Paul Sherwin, they laughed for so long. And that always just stayed with me. It was kind of funny that he threw that in like that. It's kind of cool. So every time I see a shot like this, I think about that commentary that Phil Liggett made. It's like he said, these guys, the tan on their legs is from rust because of all the rain Belgium had that year. But those boys used to go to Spain and other places to train, you know, in the winter. So if you look at Harry just pulled up, he joined us a few weeks ago. He's from Seattle. Look at his pockets. We're going to talk about it in a few kilometers when we get on 149. You see all the stuff sticking up and all of that. And Logan also has stuff like that. The risk is things can fall out if you get out of the saddle or you sprint or whatever it is you do. So you got to really secure your stuff. And that's why, you know, I like kits that have like an elastic band at the top of the pocket. If you look at my pockets, they're in there. I gotta open it with force when I put my hand back in there. There's an elastic band at the top that secure the contents. This is the guy I was talking about. He's pulled up. His name is Steve. He's gonna drift to the back, hoping that it's easier, but it's not easier back there because now you're reacting the yo-yo effect after the fact. So he expended a lot of energy and he can't even stay on Shimpo-san wheel because he's out of shape. And then he shouldn't have done what he did. Even when you're in shape, I wouldn't do what he was doing. You saw where I was. As soon as we turned, I got in shelter so that you're fresh when it's your turn to take your pull. So you got to ride with your, as the French say, tête à jambe, head and legs. You don't just ride with legs. You use your head. You need to think. You need to pay attention. You use your head in cycling. And then your legs will benefit you. So you have to know, cycling is all about timing. You have to know when to expend your energy and how much to give. And that's pretty much applies to a lot of things in life anyway. You gotta use your head, common sense. I'm staying within a foot of John's wheel. John Clement Shimpo-san Malbrek. We've renamed him from the AG2R Citroën La Mondiale team. They ride the same way. John loves going up hills because he doesn't have to use that many watts when the road goes up. So every time the road goes up, he comes to the front. And you will see in a few kilometers, I'll be pulling and he'll come around and he'll do that. And then right at the summit, it's like he turns off the power. He does not really finish the hill. And then I go by him. You need to finish the hill. You know, so but he likes pushing on uphills. As I do this commentary, we had an epic ride on Sunday today with John, Mike, and myself. We rode off from the guys we were riding with, and so we had a 3-man breakaway into the wind on Fish Creek. It was epic. I mean, just a hard effort. I was kind of surprised I felt that good after what we did on Saturday. So it's kind of good. That means my form is coming along nicely. So as I talked about the Souke jersey, the fit, the function, it's for hot weather. It's got like a ventilation on the side, and I just love everything about it. I love the design. This one is called the Year of the Tiger. It's got like a tiger design, and then the top of the back. Maybe we'll get closer shots. There's a design on the back that looks like a sunburst, and it's just beautiful. And they worked their name in there on the top of the back of the jersey, right behind my helmet. Can't really see it here. So John pulls off, and I drop my gearing and I raise my cadence as I go by. I'm not changing the effort. I'm just changing how I pedal because now I'm in the wind. I'm saving my legs because my plan here is to lead until we finish Mount Magnolia, the overpass. So I get down low because that wind is blowing. You see the watts about 300. It was 3 something a little bit ago. There's a bunch of gusts of wind. I'm in the same gear. The road has just changed. Yeah, now it's at 1%. With the wind and that grade, my cadence has dropped, but I have not downshifted. I'm using the same gear because the rhythm feels good. But because of the terrain, it has changed the fact that, I don't want to be spinning at 110 right now. Just sit up there. I think this is where I see a couple of cyclists in the distance. One guy is riding a recumbent, and another guy's on a regular road bike. And they're riding 2 abreast on the shoulder. As we get closer, they will go single file. I thought that was nice because the guy in the recumbent has a mirror on his helmet, so he sees us. You'll see them in a little bit. So the road kicks up here, just a slight little bump. It gets to like 2.5%. I'm staying in the same gear. The cadence will drop a little bit. It's probably in the 80s. I've already checked the main lane. It's clear. I see those riders go single file up ahead. But I'm going to end up using the main lane as I go by to give them even more room. You hear us exchange greetings and we continue. This part of town is called Mostyn, M-O-S-T-Y-N. Had it not been for the map, I would never have known. They got some nice little climbs in the neighborhoods to the right. There's a street here called Community Road, and back in there, they got some nice bumps. I'm talking 7, 8, 9%. They're not long, but they're leg breakers. That road right there we just passed. It's nice to find these little things, so you don't have to go very far. Just, go visit another neighborhood. Do your work there. I just unzipped with one hand that jersey for ventilation because we're approaching Mount Magnolia. We'll be there probably in about a kilometer. About a quarter mile, 3/4 of a mile, something like that. You can see we're holding 24 miles an hour, just steady into this wind. It's blowing like crazy, and I'm on the hoods right now, just tapping out the rhythm. Going to use the lane here because of the construction. They're building like grocery store and other things on the right. This place used to be deserted. They've since cleared it. They're paving, so they're using our shoulder like a lane now. To the left, you see the gas station awning over there. It's going to be a grocery store. I think it's a Kroger. So we use this right turn lane just in case, because if any cars are turning right, we want them behind us. There's a high school back here. We're going to go up the overpass. The high school is to the right. That's why they put that lane there. So if you're going to the high school, that will take you off the overpass and you go to the right. You can see those brown buildings to the right. That's the high school. That's Magnolia High. Then they've got another one called Magnolia West, which is in closer to downtown Magnolia. This is like the outskirts of Magnolia. And they built this overpass because the train used to hold up the traffic. So I check for traffic in that lane and then come across this entry lane onto the overpass and take the shoulder. And the reason I'm going through everything I'm doing here is that Paul's telling me Shempusan's coming. But when you're riding, you need to be predictable. You saw how quickly I did what I needed to do. I checked and got over so the drivers can know where you're going to be instead of just being in limbo and they have to guess. Shempusan comes around. I just raised my cadence. I'm in the same gear. You can see the watts went up from 250 to like 400 or whatever. But that's what I need for this effort on this climb. He may be putting out 2 something depending on his weight and his fitness. I'm 187 pounds, about probably 85 kilos. So he's a smaller guy. Probably got about 30 pounds on him. So now, as we crest the climb, he's gonna just, all of a sudden, the power goes. He just slows down. So you see me move to the right. Right there. He's just slowed down like, we're not done. The climb's not over. Got to finish it. So I'm going to go through the gears as we descend. Keep us moving. it's what he likes to do. So, you know, it's not a problem. There's no big deal. But if you come up there, we got to finish the climb. You hear the wind. We're moving. Almost 30 miles an hour. It's a slight descent, -2. It's not that drastic. I lean the bike a little bit. I'm looking in my mirror to see who's there. So I'm going to resume here. And then once again, he will come by again. And I'm like, why didn't you do that on the overpass and just stay at the front? So I was like, okay, I'm going to lift the pace too. So I go ahead. I stay in the same gear. It's a heavy gear. I turn it. And then I go to the left because he slows down again. He does these little accelerations. They're like, what is that? I ain't going to do anything. You got to be able to go for like 5 minutes. That's the tiger design you see on the left of the jersey. It's really beautiful. It's a unique print. I always unclip long before I stop, just in case, because sometimes your cleats don't cooperate.
Whenever. I will turn it off. Right now, you zoom on the back, right here, I turn it off. I'm not having a don't stay up there too long. Sit on the couch.
Green up.
I'll just do a little bit. Okay. Boy, Mike is up there.
Yeah, Paul and I talking about what he'll do when he's at the front. I told him not to stay too long there. We got enough people to pull. So we turn, and I want to make sure everybody comes through because I just took a long pull. And we want people to come and stick their nose in the wind. I wave Harry up off camera. He comes through. You see his jersey? That's what I wanted to talk about. So his pump is sticking up over the jersey. Probably okay, you know, but when you look at his jersey, it's kind of loose. So sometimes when the jersey is loose like that, as you're riding and you move, the jersey will swing and you can lose stuff out of your pocket. Plus it feels odd on the body when your jersey's moving, especially when you load the pockets. So when you're sizing your jersey, we have a video about how to size your cycling kit. You need to size your jersey differently than you do your regular everyday wear. That's what matters. It doesn't matter what brand you buy. It needs to fit you right. The shorts I'm wearing is the black version of the green from Souke that I was real thrilled about in earlier group rides. I talked about it. They sent us the black copy here. It's really nice to use. So you don't have to break the bank. You just have to pick the right vendor to get stuff from. This point here, we're just going to sit in. I'm not sure if they're going to Jackson at this point, because when we got to the lot, they had already discussed the route at Crust Pizza. So from what John laid out, it sounded like they wanted to go 149 to Spring Branch, but that's not the case. They actually are going to go straight. So you'll see me point right and then let everybody know shortly after, oh, they're going straight. Because in the group rides, you want to communicate with people behind you so they have enough time to react. There's one rider behind us, the guy who was struggling in green earlier. I'm not sure when he fell off the pace, but it was before we got to Jackson. He was going to ride with us on Sunday, and then about 7 minutes before the ride start, he put on the board that he was not going to ride with us because he still can't keep up. One day is not enough. You got to go for at least 6 weeks if you're serious and do your training. That's why it's better to stay consistent so your fitness doesn't vary too much. So all we're doing here is sitting in, keeping a good distance between our front wheel and the rear wheel, and I'm sitting off to one side to see what's happening, using the wind to slow me down because there's a lot of yo-yo when you're following in the group. So don't ever listen to anybody who says you're not supposed to coast in a group. Or stop pedaling. That doesn't even make sense. Someone came to the channel a long time ago and mentioned that his group had told him that. Like, if you're not supposed to coast, the bicycle wouldn't have the function of coasting. I told Mike to get in because he just pulled off the front and there's a truck coming in. This is a busy road. So I left the gap for him to get in. Gave me thumbs up. I can see the traffic in my mirror. So this is when sitting at the back here, the pace is somewhat steady, the road's flat. You drink some water, you can take a gel, You don't want to do heavy solids when you're riding, say, outside of endurance pace or whatever. There is no heart rate this week. When I started the ride, my belt just would not register. I ended up coming back on Saturday evening. I changed the battery, and that was the problem with my heart rate belt. There was no warning because I last rode on Thursday and it worked fine. And then get on the bike on Saturday. So that's why you only see power. And that's another reason not to depend on those things. So whether I don't have power or heart rate, that's not going to stop me from riding. Those things just give you feedback about what you have already done. They don't pedal the bike. So only leave a gap when you're following the pace line. If the pace is something that's tolerable, you can leave a little bit of space so you can see around the riders or you can see what's coming. I'll stay a little to the right. I can see around them there, or I'll drift to the left depending on what the rider in front of me does. Because if you're following with a group, if you're following in a group that is too hard for you, you need to be close. You need to be in there getting the maximum draft. So since they're riding steadily, I'm varying my cadence. So you'll see 90s, you'll see 80s. I'm not going to spin a very high cadence. Meaning above 100, it's not necessary. I'm not at the front. I'm not trying to start a break. I'm not trying to catch up to somebody. Yeah, because that's an acceleration. This is where we're approaching the intersection. To the right is 149, the street to the right. The one going straight, this 149 becomes Jackson Road. 149 that we're on continues to the right. It goes east, then it goes north. So you saw me point, and now I'm watching because nobody else points. So I said, I guess, aren't we going right? Aren't we turning right? Then they go straight.
Straight.
So I told Paul they're going straight. I like this road better than that section of 149 that I thought they were turning on. Because that section of 149 that they're turning on, it's not as challenging and it's got a narrow shoulder. This road is quieter. It has fewer cars going by. And it's just more scenic. It's beautiful. That's James and that's Steve. So Steve is here on Jackson. I thought he fell off before Jackson. But by the time we got to Mount Mariah, I didn't see him. So he's sitting on the back. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with sitting on the back. If you stay close, you might be able to get a good workout. I'm not sure who's at the front. This road is undulating, but right now it's flat. So you can see I'm soft pedaling. You've slowed down. I'm not even pedaling at all. When you see me look down like that, I'm not looking for a wheel. I'm glancing at the cluster, the rear cluster, to see where I am in the cluster. Am I in the middle? I do that, as I mentioned earlier. I do that for reference so that during the week when I'm training, I can get in those same gears and try to replicate the feel that I'm experiencing here. You can see the road visually going on. It's a slight bump. It does not require you to shift if you don't want to. The cadence goes down a little bit. Sometimes sometimes you have to push. You can see how nice this pavement is. I think it was about a year or so ago, maybe 18 months, might be 2 years. It's been a bit, but when we used to come out here, it had a lot of patina. Mike Barrera is easy to follow. It's just easier to follow a very experienced rider. Less reaction required. So when they slow down, I soft pedal until it's required for me to stop. Like here, I didn't pedal at all because it was slowing down for so long and we're on the descent. Stay a little to the left. I'm kind of watching what's going on up there. I always like to see what's coming up. See how close I am to Mike's wheel? I hope we get another shot at it. I'm a foot or less. And to maintain that, you have to stay in the proper ratios so that when the speed changes, you can accelerate without straining yourself, which is what I was doing a second ago. So Logan pulls off the front, and I believe, I don't know if it's Harry that's pulling now. Is it James? Let's see who's that. I think it's Harry. Yeah, Harry's pulling. I think there's somebody in front of Harry. Might be Pedro. Yeah, it's Pedro. So Pedro is pulling, and then Harry is in line. We got a couple of little bumps coming in about 5 kilometers, 3 miles. So Pedro pulled off. Now you see, Pedro pulled off quicker than when Logan was there. You don't have to match how long someone else pulled for. You need to pay attention to how you feel. That's what matters. Don't try to be a hero and stay up there too long for you. Then you can't get back in the draft and you get dropped. If you get to the front and you can't even turn 2 or 3 turns, just get off. Go drift back. Nobody cares. They'll come through. See the hill coming up in the distance there? It's going to curve to the left. It's not very vicious. It might be 3%, if that. But it's a nice length. So the road starts to go off. Harry is still pulling. And John Clement Champoussin is going to come. And I guess his intent was to come up and just give Harry a wheel. Because he really didn't raise the pace that much. Coming from the back, and then Logan decides to go with him, and then James decides to go on Logan's wheel. Well, Harry decides he wants to stay up there for a while. So Harry gets on John's wheel. John's going to drift over in front of Harry. Harry's going to take John's wheel. Well, this is our line. I'm not letting anybody in front of me, especially this guy in the black, because he does not hold his line. He weaves all over. He's always drifting from left to right. He's a pain to follow, so he ain't getting in front of me. I stay on my wheel. He's gonna look because the wind's hitting him now. He should have stayed in the back. So he's going to end up going right back where he came from. And now Logan's sitting in the wind. He's catching wind because John is in front pulling and Logan is on the left. He's not in shelter. And Harry sits on John's wheel for as long as he wants and as long as he can, and then he's going to pull off and go to the back. It's a nice long climb. It's not that vicious, it's like 2%. Now he's leveling off. Go downhill for a little bit, about 1,000 meters, and then it will kick up and drop down to another little bump before we get a 1486. You can see right here it goes up just a little bit, at 1%. But the gears were riding 53.17, 53.16, depending on how you're climbing, 53.19. You got to push. This is a 2%er. So Harry waves him. I'm not sure why he waved. You just need to drift to the back because he pulled out of the line. Once you pull out of the line, that's it. You're going to slow down. He's spinning like a hamster there. It upsets your rhythm. The road goes back up here. Nothing major. I don't know if it even gets to 3%. It may. All right, so that's 4. I didn't realize it got that high. It didn't seem that much of a challenge. It's short. Now it's back to 2. So we're approaching the corner of Jackson and FM 1486. We're going to turn right, which will take us easterly, then northerly towards Dobbins, Texas. You blink, you miss Dobbins. Not much there. John pulls off the front. So John does those things to push himself. The road goes up, he comes to the front, he's pushing himself like an interval. Those dogs are in their yard. They don't even see us, they just hear the bikes and they're barking. Because they've got like a fence, a 6-foot fence, and it's not see-through. So we turn, and this is a descent. The speeds will pick up. So Paul flips the camera back to catch these guys in the back. It's not as tight as it could be. They're catching a lot of wind back there. The road goes up, I drop my gear and I raise my cadence. Saves your legs. Logan's trying to pull off, but there's a car coming. So as soon as the car goes by, he pulls off, and then Mike takes over. That's why I really like that rear view mirror that I have in my bar, the bar end. You don't have to turn your head as often. Go ahead and take a drink here because it crosses my mind. I make sure that bottle is in before I let it go. Don't want to drop it in the baseline. And when Mike is pulling, he gets down low. Once he gets into his rhythm, he gets on the bars. It's almost like I think he gets on the hoods, but he gets a very low arrow position. He's not doing that here. He's sitting up top. There's a board on the road. Yeah, well, John says board. Just point. By the time you said board, people gotta look for it. Just point. They'll go away from where you're pointing. That's why we spread out and pointed at it. Those little 2x4, just short pieces. People drop all over the highway. I don't understand that. Probably from these work trucks. You don't want to go over those. Even in a car, it shakes you up. It can cause you to have a pinch flat if you hit them. On the outskirts of the Dobbins area, we're going to be turning left on Mount Mariah Road. It's nice and quiet. You get a car once in a while going by. I don't believe I shifted here. I think I just stayed in the same gear. You can see my cadence is barely above 80. I just stayed in the same gear. It felt fine. I'm gonna tell Mike that there's car back so he can. Now it's clear. We're gonna be turning left over the tracks. I like to use the main lane when I turn left because the tracks are very bumpy over here. They're not the smoothest ones. I mean, they're not the worst ones we've been over. And we turn left here. So we always look up ahead because that's a blind curve there. So we turn and Mike pulls off. I'll go ahead and keep the work going. This is a grade. You can tell I'm out of the saddle and I'm working that gear. You should be able to stand and sit without seizing your pedaling. You can't do that, you gotta practice that. But it all starts with a good bike fit. If your saddle is where it needs to be, you'll be able to do that with no worries. This road is a grade the entire way, and you have to work. There are some cracks on the road, but you shouldn't have to call cracks out. People can look. They're not big enough to swallow your wheel. They're very bumpy and uncomfortable. I wouldn't ride over them. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of smooth pavement in the lane. You always have to pay attention when you're riding and read the road. Not only does it keep you safe, it helps you avoid unnecessary punctures. I keep the gear rolling, treating it like a mountain climb, 80s. The rhythm felt good. We're approaching Highway 105. We're west of downtown Magnolia, Texas. Montgomery, Texas. We're north of Magnolia, outside of Dobbins. So Magnolia is to the right. We're going to go straight across. It's clear.
Clear.
And this is where the group splits. These guys decide they don't want to continue. And that's what I was talking about. Just they're going to go back home there. We've got a longer day planned. When Paul and I ride, we try to stop maybe after 2 hours. Yeah, you can see there's only 5 of us now. So about 4 people split off. That's why you don't need to make speeches. When you've had enough, you just pull off and I'm going back or I'm turning right, whatever. I don't know at this point that they've turned off. I just keep riding. We're out here. We want to keep moving. I stand to keep that gear rolling. In a little bit, I think I will stand again. Every time the road kind of starts to slow me down, I don't want to downshift. I just stand just to keep it rolling. This is Mount Mariah Road. It's a nice, quiet road. Lots of trees. It's just beautiful. Roll off the front.
I don't think the whole group is here.
So when Paul tells me that, I look behind. At this point, Paul had like flipped the camera off, and this is Shempusan. Shempusan had come around Paul. Paul had been pulling, and so he does something similar to what he did on the overpass. After a while, he just turns off the power. He does not flick to say, oh, I'm done or whatever. All of a sudden he slows down, Paul can feel it, and Paul will go around him and just resume what he was doing. Paul goes around in there, takes the lead. We're further down it's the same, yeah, it's the same stretch. We're further down from where Paul was pulling, and this time we've come around him. He slipped on the back. We're approaching 1486. We're not near there yet. There's a couple of bumps before we get there. Because Mount Mariah Road has a lot of undulations, besides the fact that it's just sparsely traveled by cars. You come out here any day of the week, any time of the day, it's just like this. And then we don't have a lot of dogs that are loose out here too, so you can get a good workout on this road. They got a church, you know, and these are mostly people's homes, large acreage properties. Look how the trees cover the road like they meet, like they're greeting each other. You know, it's beautiful. In the winter, it's cooler out here. So when we're coming out this way, we dress warmer. It's one of the bumps coming up. There's an old cemetery road to the left. It dead ends. Paul and I have been down there. We always go and check out those roads. So that's why we brave those busy highways to get out here. The exercise potential is very high. I don't care for riding in town much. They're stopping all the time. Lights, intersections, traffic congestion. Doesn't bode well for training. That's anywhere in the world. Most cyclists head out away from traffic to get their workout done. And besides the front, all of a sudden I feel everything slowing down. I'm gonna drift back to Paul and tell him, I think he's getting tired. And then when we get to the corner, you hear him say, whew. Don't do that. That's like blood in the water. Don't let people know you're tired. Keep it close to the vest. That's what we call it, Mount Mariah. You're climbing most of the time. It's a nice road in both directions. So right here, listen. He said, "Woo."
Clear. Boy, it's quiet out here.
Mike said it's quiet out here. There's nothing out here. On this stretch now, we're gonna get a crazy dog. He's crazier than the first one this morning, and he's huge. Comes out on the road from his yard. This has never happened out here. This is a busy highway. You don't get a lot of cars, but when they come by, they're moving. So if you got a dog running out here, you can get him killed. You know, it's unfortunate. Some of these owners are not on top of things. This is the FM 1486 heading north towards Dobbins. If you stay on it, we'll take you into Richards, Texas. That is not our preferred route when we go to Richards. It's not as interesting, so we use 149 whenever we do that. But this road is a chip seal road. You have to work for every mile per hour or kilometer per hour you get. That's what I was talking about. You see that car, you use the other lane, but they're moving on this road. So if you got a dog or a pet or whatever, you let him come on this road, you know, you're putting him in harm's way. As the hitman in the Hitman's Bodyguard said, harm's way. I am harm's way. Those of you who have seen that movie, I like that movie. Samuel Jackson's in it. It's funny. It's a good story. So this road, we put our heads down when we get on there and we just walk, because it's not fun. I keep my cadence reasonable so I can stay on that wheel without straining my lower back or anything. You have to be one-way a machine so that every motion makes it go forward. I have over 50,000 kilometers on that blue frame. You know, it's properly maintained, but it just works. It rides so well. It soaks up the bumps. Steel is real, folks. It just works. Logan pull off. Mike Barrera takes over. As I've said earlier, Mike is like a motorman, like the likes of Museo, Duke Lazal. He just gets in there, puts his head down like a metronome and just taps out the rhythm. So in about 1,000 meters is when that dog is going to come out. We'll go around. There's the road kind of, I guess, I don't know if it curves or not, but we go right past his driveway. There's a bunch of trees. You see these trees on the right. A lot of these homes have those trees, gives them privacy. So we don't see him till he hits the road. And we just scatter because we don't want him in our path. You know, you've seen the video right there. You see him? He's coming. Look at him. And he's huge. And we scatter all over. So it's like I look back, I see Logan back there, and John is back there. Paul's right here. So we wait. I'm gonna look back for them, make sure they're here, and then I'm gonna pull everybody back to Mike's and I'll let Mike know we're all here. So he ran out and he ran back in his yard. I blame the owner, not the dog. You got a pet, you need to secure it. There was a forum that a while back, I was on a forum where they were talking about people complaining about stuff in other people's yards that is affecting their dogs. You're taking your dog for a walk and it's going to do its business in other people's yard, and then a lot of them don't pick up. If nobody's around, they don't pick up the poop. Nobody wants your dog pooping in their yard. It's your dog. Walk him in your yard. Let him poop there. You know, so they were complaining that people were putting this one, I think it was a school or something that made the announcement just to let them know we're going to put stuff in the grass that will bother your pets, because they just had a problem with people walking the dog in the schoolyard and leaving dog feces all over the place. Then they had the nerve to complain about it. So there's one guy posted, he said, if you're worried about what's in my yard, then don't walk your dog in my yard. I was like, really? That took a lot of, he shouldn't have had to say that. That's common sense. You don't have the right to walk your dog in other people's yard, and let alone not pick up after your dog. My wife has caught people that walking their dog in our yard, and they pooped, and he looked around thinking nobody saw him. Didn't even have a bag with him. She gave him a bag to pick up the poop. That's just irresponsible and rude. You're the one who wants the pet. You got watching the pet go poop in somebody else's yard. It's just nonsense. So yeah, a lot of them are not responsible owners. They have signs all over the place, like in the woodlands. They have signs that say, please clean up after your pet. Why they gotta say clean up after your pet? That's a no-brainer. They gotta make signs for that. Because you're using a public park or a public trail, and they gotta tell you to clean up after your pet. Yeah, really? Come on. As they say, come on, man. So when you're riding, try to avoid having those dogs get in your path. That's why we scattered like we did. They can cause wrecks. You guys have seen that took Dave down on Spring Branch Road. So when we're riding, we're scanning the road all the time. We're not just watching that wheel. We're scanning. Just like when you drive, you're supposed to be scanning. Because dogs will chase anything that is moving away from them. That is in their nature. That's what they do. Some dogs I've seen chase cars. So it's not personal. But the owners need to secure them. We're headed towards Dobbins. A lot of times when we get near Dobbins, people want to sprint. You'll see them come around. I mean, there's not much of a sprint. I mean, we're basically just riding. I just stay on Mike's wheel. There's a downhill, basically drops us towards Dobbins. There's a little bump in the distance. Once we crest that, and we're pretty much at the little stop area. So they want to stop here. We don't want to stop. You'll hear me ask Mike if he's stopping, because my bottles are still full, so we end up just leaving them there and spinning, and they catch back up to us. We stay on the same route because we don't need anything from the store. So the entire ride we held a very respectable pace. But this is Dobbins, Texas. I mean, it's not all of it, but this is the store we come to, but it's all sparsely populated.
I think John wants to stop.
That's why I asked if we stopped, and that John wants to stop. So I thought it micro stop. That's what Mike calls those short stops. He calls them micro stop. And then we get in here and we realize we don't even need to be here, so we decide we're just going to spin down the road and they can catch up.
Yep, same here.
So make sure you get your K's in, because this is part of what we did on Saturday. Keep those doctors far.